Hi, Rachel DeMille here from TJEd. I'm here to introduce you to the YSS binder insert, which for me is key to the success with the YSS program. Now, of course, you can just take what ideas that we have shared and create your own program, but if what you want is what we have to offer, I think you're really going to love this binder and how it helps to track and organize and motivate learning for the love of learning, transition to scholar, and early scholar phase learner. So let's look at the YSS binder insert. It starts out with this table of contents, and I strongly urge you to review these first few pages because this will answer so many of your questions on how to run the YSS program, especially if you want to do it as a community club or a project for a commonwealth. It describes the very important features such as the medallions and the projects and goals and the way that committees work and the way that club assemblies work. So again, review these first few pages and feel free at any time, of course, to contact us at tjed.org. There's a contact tab where you can fill out a form, and we try to be very responsive to those questions. And as we go forward at learning.tjed.org, you will find a YSS option there for subscription, and it will contain videos that give you ideas on how to run your program and just answer basic questions, and we will be responsive to common questions to create videos there to help you along your way. Now, again, I want to remind you that YSS is a program that can be used as something that's just for one child or within a family or within a couple of families working together, and it can grow to be, in our case, when we ran YSS for our community, there were times when we had 60 or more people involved in our club, and it was equally successful and scalable depending on who wanted to be involved. So there's a way to tailor it to your particular situation. So let's dive into this binder a little bit further. Again, these first few pages describe some of the features of how we ran the club when we were doing it. The blast from the past, the lesson, the activity, and so forth. Now, let's get into the meat of the YSS program. Here we have the overview of the Young Statesman Society. You will see that it has 6 areas of focus. Here we have Benito Juarez, Lamp of Learning Medallion. Here we have Casper ten Boom, Family and Spiritual Values. George Washington, Outstanding Citizen. Winston Churchill, Leadership Excellence Medallion. Going down, Gandhi, Georgic Freedom Medallion. Georgic is self-reliance and working the land, and basically just those things that make us able to maintain our freedom and our prosperity by learning and knowing basic skills for building a home, a family, a society. Father Damien, Hands in Service. Now I'm going to skip over to the girls binder and review for you there. Hope I don't make you dizzy as I scroll here. The girls' areas of achievement. They are the same except for different heroes. The girls have Abigail Adams for Lamp of Learning and Hannah Hendee for Family and Spiritual Values. Rosa Parks, Outstanding Citizen. Margaret Thatcher, Leadership Excellence. Sacagawea, Georgic Freedom. Some people say Sacagawea, whatever. Sacagawea, Georgic Freedom. And Mother Teresa, Hands in Service. The things that follow beneath are virtually identical. In the Young Stateswomen, when a girl has achieved all of the medallions in all 6 areas, she is awarded what's known as the Joan of Arc Young Stateswoman Award. And the culminating award for the boys is the Cincinnatus Young Statesman Award. Now, I'm not going to go into instruction here on who Cincinnatus is or Casper ten Boom or Hannah Hendee. Those resources will be made available to you, and I urge you to do your own research on them and learn why these were chosen and explore these characters, because we were very thoughtful about how to represent each of these values and these achievement areas by representing them with a particular hero or heroine. So look into those, and with each of them, you'll see that the very first bullet point of achievement is presentation, for example, here on Benito Juarez, presentation on Benito Juarez. Now, on this, as with everything else in the program, these are designed to be very broad and personal and individualized. So a presentation could be, I'm going to pretend that I am Benito Juarez and tell his story to the group. Or it could be a panorama where you show what it may have looked like in the room where he studied as a child. Or you can show, you can make a costume that would be period that represented him. And you could create a scrapbook that represents some of the research and study that you've done. You could create a play and do a little skit that represents. I encourage you to be very broad-minded in what types of projects you introduce and that you accept as, the completion of this. And it's best if you're very aware of the phase and interests and gifts of the individual when deciding what will be this project, this presentation, to represent that hero. So, and then under each goal area, it says plan, receive approval for, and do a project/goal set in each of the following. And again, under Benito Juarez and also Abigail Adams, we have music, science, mathematics, history, spelling, penmanship, literature, poetry, art, writing, alternate or optional. Now, these obviously represent some of the more common academic areas, as we'd like to call them. And under alternate or optional, you can add something that's important to you that maybe not be listed there. And you can add as many alternates as you want. You could, in the case of a particular child, skip a certain thing altogether. Say you have a child that has motor coordination issues and penmanship is just not a goal for them. Maybe, a disability that makes writing with a pen just not something that you're going to be working on with them. So you can just literally cross out penmanship and not count it toward their achievement of the medallion. So you want to personalize every aspect of this as you go forward. So then, before I move on, be sure to read under the Cincinnatus Young Statesman Award and the Joan of Arc Young Stateswomen Award, the sidebar column there, as it explains kind of what the culminating award can be. And that has been really special. Like we had one of our daughters got a big, beautiful sword that she chose from an online catalog. And it represents to her that she is a freedom warrior and that she takes her education seriously and that she has a work to perform that's hers to do. And that's a treasure for her. It could be a musical instrument, a piece of fine art, a meaningful collectible, a starter library, or a family heirloom. It could be a cash gift or a special trip or just maybe a scholarship toward continuing education, whatever is meaningful for you and that individual child as their culminating award. And you don't have to decide at the very beginning, and you can change your mind along the way. But when it comes time to award that, it should be something that represents sort of a rite of passage, that this achievement is kind of putting behind them their childhood learning and opening a new chapter in their achievement as an individual. So again, there are more details in that sidebar that explain a little bit more about how the club is run. I want to advance now to the next page where we come to the Young Statesman Society Creed and Mission Statement. This is something that we recited at the beginning of each club assembly meeting and at the beginning of each committee meeting, the mission statement. And we put a lot of thought into it. And I really feel like it reflects our values in creating this program. And we found that it was very meaningful to those who participated. Moving on now. Now we get into the guts of the binder. Now, when you print the binder, and I do urge you to print it so that it can become sort of a portfolio of learning. It can track things in a way that becomes very nice especially if you live in a state where reporting is required, or maybe you're concerned about creating a transcript later on, or looking at admissions for a higher education program. This binder will be a mine of information on the things that you and your child have done that you can draw from. You can present it as is. I remember when my husband was working for a scholarship that was a statewide competition, one of the things that he presented was a binder full of stuff that represented his accomplishments. And this can be just that. It can be sort of not, I don't know that you would want to use it as a scrapbook. You might want to have other things for that. But this can be sort of a catalog that represents the things that you've worked at and achieved. So when you print it out, we always did it on 70-pound paper, because this is something that you want to be able to turn these pages back and forth in a 3-ring binder for several years. So it's worth the slight expense of putting on a heavier paper that's going to last for several years. Obviously, you can do like the hole protectors, the little circles, but for almost 100 pages, that's kind of not very fun to do. And I don't know if it works as well as having the whole page be more sturdy anyway. So here we have on the Benito Juarez, a picture of Benito himself and then a quote from his own writings. Among individuals as among nations, respect for the rights of others is peace. The binder is designed so that this would be a right-facing page, and this one would be a left page. So you look at this on the right, and as you turn and look to the left, we have here the medallion completion overview. Now, this is just a smaller version of what we saw before on the overview. Exactly the same, the presentation, and then plan, receive approval for, etc. And here's the list of the different areas of achievement. As each of these is completed, you would then check off here on the overview page. Okay, the presentation's done. Now we've done music. Okay, that's checked off. History, that's checked off. Moving forward. Now this is going to be a front side of a page. This is kind of important because if you don't print it out properly, then you have this back page that's supposed to be a part of this one on a totally different page that has something else on its back. So make sure that when you print it out, this is the front side of the page and this is the back side of the page. Now let's talk about planning for individual projects. You come here to the Benito Juarez Lab of Learning music page and you decide, okay, for this, my 10-year-old son, who already has been writing his own songs for the past couple of years, he's got a basic interest and understanding of music. So that's going to be different for a different child for whom music is sort of an abstraction. It's something on the radio. They'll have a different experience and a different goal. The purpose of these goal areas is not to give end-all, be-all experience for every single child that is uniform, but rather takes the child where they're at and gives them a meaningful next step to kind of explore what that subject is about. For some people, it's going to be their first introduction, and so it's going to be introductory stuff. And that's fine because it doesn't, again, this is just something that they're getting exposed to as a child, and it lays a foundation for when they return to it later. For others who have maybe a profound aptitude in that area and a lot of achievement in that area, you want to do something that's a little more challenging, a little more broadening, a little more depth, where they get into some, heavier stuff or more intricate stuff or more elaborate stuff. So you'll decide based on what age they approach this, because it's going to be different if they're an 8-year-old coming to it than if they're a 13-year-old coming to it. So you personalize every step of the way here. Now, here's the cool thing about this. You may have a plan for what you want to do with music, and they're working on that right now. But what for the child who they're more interested in, the Gandhi Georgic freedom type stuff right now, and they're not really working on music. But then you go to a club assembly meeting and everybody works together to prepare a song that they're going to sing at a community event. Well, then now you've gone and done something sort of musical, haven't you? So you can go to the back page of this music project record, and here you would write, on August 25th, 2018, Ian took part in a choir that presented at a community event, and you write down the comments and you write your initials, and you just sort of capture that experience so that later on, when it is time and you're ready to fill out what we're doing for the music goals and achievements, you can come to this back page and consult, we did this, we did that, we did this, we did that. I think I'd like to count this achievement here as something toward this. So you can capture stuff all along the way. Maybe let's say you have a Commonwealth YSS club and you have a committee meeting where they are introduced to poetry, and you don't yet have a plan for poetry, but you write down in here, okay, he wrote an acrostic poem on this, and he wrote a limerick about that, and he wrote a haiku on this, and then the Commonwealth decided to do a poetry slam, and he participated in that, and you've got all these things on here that later you can put on here. But here's the cool thing. When you got the poetry slam written down here, all of a sudden it's not just poetry, is it? This is a public event where he's presenting, and that's something that you might want to go ahead over to the Winston Churchill area where public speaking is one of the goals, and include the participation in the poetry slam as part of the archive on achievements that might apply to public speaking. So you want to be kind of reviewing your overview frequently just to stay abreast of thoughts on capturing information on what is being done and how it might apply toward achievement. And you'll find as you do this, there's a sense of momentum. The kid gets kind of excited about, wow, I'm really progressing in this. I'm accomplishing things. And over time, as they see others present their ideas in club assembly of things that they've accomplished, whole area, and so they want to, hey, let's fill out the poetry one. I want to finish that. And you can see how it creates sort of a momentum, a pull to try new things, to complete things that maybe were off their radar. Maybe it wasn't their primary interest. But just by having that overview, that grand list, you can see things, and the way this binder works, you can see things that might be of interest and create opportunities where the child is self-motivated with a little bit of guidance, a little bit of peer encouragement, a little bit of incentive with the achievement awards and so forth, to make plans for what they want to try next, what they want to do next. So this is the way the binder works. At the end of the binder, there's a place where once the youth has completed in a particular goal area, then they fill out this form signed by themselves and whoever their advisor is. Obviously, it could be their parent or a committee person or whatever. And this is where they say, okay, I'm ready to be awarded a medallion. Now, the medallions can be whatever you decide. If you're interested in what we've done, those are available in our store on TJEd.org. You can buy a set of 6 medallions. And then again, the culminating award, the Cincinnatus or the Joan of Arc award, is something that is decided and awarded by the family themselves, unless you as a club decided to do something different. Anyway, so this is the binder. This is how it works. And if you have any questions for me, please feel free to fill out a contact form and get that to me, and we will try and be responsive to you directly, or maybe create additional videos to answer questions of general interest. Thank you so much for your attention to this, and I hope that you love YSS and it is effective for you as it has been for our family. Until next time, thanks. Bye-bye.